ain't nothing to it. Go ahead and bring a lot thorn. Ain't no giant, I ain't gon' fire on. Catch a fade, you, I'm warm, I'm gone. Y'all can catch the wave that I am on. I am icon, y'all are wide wrong. Think that I'm a reconcile born. Shit ain't nothing to it though. This is on me, ain't got much to do with who you know. Keeping it true to from 10 L's into a milli though. But they already knew that those farewell to your opinions. Know that he is something. This is all me, ain't got much to do with who you know. Yeah, keeping it true to form, but they already knew that, y'all. Here we go.
What is up, North Central Ohio football fans, and welcome to a special Tuesday night edition of the Playoff Pigskin, where we are already into the regional semifinals, so things are starting to heat up, and everybody's good at this point, including my squad, of course. My name is Brian Skowronski, but I got Erik of WMAN in the building, sitting right next to Curt, Conrad from the Richland Source, so two legendary media guys right here, all circled up, ready to talk a little bit of Pigskin, boys. And like I always do to start the show, just give me your quick thoughts from the weekend that was. I mean, we had thunderstorms, big winds, maybe some upsets. What stood out to you?
I was at Ashland on Friday night, and we had to sit through 90 minutes of weather delay. Ashland folks are thrilled to death that they stuck that one out, because they came back and beat a pretty darn good Norwalk team. Then Saturday night, we got to see a little history made up at WW Skiles Field. Owen Fisher becomes the school's career rushing leader, passes Shorty Brooks, the guy who we played with for a year. And Shelby put it on a FLIERS team. So it was a good weekend.
Yeah, I would agree. When you look at Ashland having a nice win against a quality SBC opponent, which leads to a heck of a matchup with Holy Name. The Whippets played really well on Saturday night, which sets up for a huge game, a little bit of a rematch from last year's game. And then Lucas. Brian and I were at Lucas, and we sat up in the old tree house there for quite a while. That game, it felt like we were up there forever. I was a little upset because we didn't get it in, because I was excited to call the Lucas game and just be in that environment. What a great place to be. I'm looking forward to being there this week. But I think what we're seeing is the teams that we talked about clear back in week 1 and week 2, that's been the cream of the crop. We're still seeing those teams playing onward. I think all of us felt like Lucas could be where they're at, Ashland could be where they're at, West Holmes could be where they're at, especially after week 1. I think they were an unknown until they kind of blew the brakes off Mansfield Senior that first week. And, Shelby's doing what they're doing. So I think that the league's well represented from small to big, and more competitive football coming this week.
And it's kind of like, it has kind of an NCAA tournament feel. There's some early round upsets, but when it comes time for the regional championship games, the teams that are going to be there. That's right. Those are the teams that are there.
Yeah, it's all kind of like shaken down, and the good teams are going to fall, or the bad teams will fall, I should say, and the good teams are going to remain in there. So let's go ahead and take a look at all the highlights that we had from Friday and Saturday night right now in the Runback. Kick things off with some regular season action. A longtime rivals Ontario and Clear Fork meeting for the second time this season, and the water bug was jittering and jiving all over the field. And don't forget about the breakaway speed either. Owen Hatfield going 67 yards down the far sideline to put the Warriors up a score. Ontario led it 10-zip, but Brady Tedrow cut down the deficit. He went over 1,000 career rushing yards in this game on a run a couple before that, but not to be outdone, the little engine that could. It's Hatfield again breaking loose. Warriors win it 24-14 for a season sweep of the Colts.
Yeah, I saw Ontario a couple times late in the season when they were still in the playoffs, and I tell you what, Owen Hatfield, he's a treat to watch. He's not a real big kid, but man, he can go.
Postseason contest now, perennial power Newark Catholic on the road at Danville, and the Green Wave looked more like a tsunami over the Devils in this one. Danville sophomore QB last week had 350 yards passing, had nothing going on this past weekend as Newark scored twice in the opening minute alone, and they led it by 35 at the break. They would go on to win 42-7. They're going to take on top-seeded Trimble. This was not a good game.
Yeah, I think coming in, we knew this was a really tough matchup for Danville. But Danville's young. They're going to be back. They're going to be coming back with a vengeance next year. But that Newark Catholic team, that was just a little bit of a different league.
Newark on the road at Ashland. Arrows take an early 7-0 lead on Declan Roar's 2-yard touchdown run. And right here is going to be a big play. Caden Schmitz with the scoop, and he's going to rumble 62 yards back for an Arrow score. It was a 14-point cushion. Truckers would eventually find the end zone coming up here. Garrett Chapin to a wide open Oliver Maloney. This would cut the deficit in half, but Ashland would deliver the knockout blow coming up here on the next play. It's Roar going up top. He's got Landon McFrederick all alone. 83-yard bomb, and the Arrows advancing 21-7.
Yeah, and Ashland, they did some things on special teams. They recovered a pooch kick, the opening kickoff of the game, got a short field, and then a scoop and score from about 60 yards out.
Region 27 quarterfinals now. Shadyside making the trip from the Ohio Valley to Howard, where Reese Francis was chucking missiles. That's Mason Van Nest with the catch. 56 yards on the gain sets up Jason Visnick from 4 yards out. The Tigers led 8-0 at the half. Let's go late third now. Peyton Lester going deep, but Francis is who's going to come down with it. He picks him off. Wyatt Raymer would later put the game away. 44 yards to the house coming up. East Knox, their season ends, boys, 14-0. One of the few top seeds to go down over the weekend.
Well, and we knew Shadyside plays in a great conference. There's 1,000 teams in that conference, but they are really good. Travis had warned us that this could potentially be the outcome. Shadyside with a lot of tradition played really well and had to battle through also inclement weather through most of the night.
Reigning Region 25 champion Lucas doing what they do, ground and pound to take the lead. But then check this out. How about the pick six by Andrew Finello? Cubs led at 14-zip at the break. Independence would march right down the field, though, to score on their opening possession of the second half. And it looked like we had a ball game on our hands, but just an incredible defensive effort by Lucas, capped off by Ethan Sauter's score. And the Cubs moving on, 21-7, boys.
It's with that offense that Lucas runs, a one-score game seems like an awful lot more than one score.
D4 defending state champion Clyde on the road, and they're going to take a 14-point edge over undefeated Huron. And here's how. Check this out. Jaden Cook working his way back into the lineup after missing most of the season with an injury, and he's going 69 yards later all the way to the end zone. He was exhausted. He would lay down, take a quick nap. He would get back up and finish the game. The Tigers would rally back to even, though. J.J. Holiday goes airborne for 6, and then after throwing 3 picks in the previous 4 passes, Cook supplies the dagger. 33 yards to Griffin Knaps for the game winner.
Hey, 2 SBC sledgehammers hitting each other here. Could have gone either way. Sets up a huge game for this one right here.
That's right. Clyde is going to get a rematch of last year's Division 4 Region 14 semifinal because Shelby steamrolled number 10 Firelands behind senior back Owen Fisher, who became the Whippets' all-time leading rusher in this game, and it was never close. Fisher went for 281 and 4 scores, while Marshall Shepard went 11 of 15 for 234 and 2 scores. Shelby extinguishes Firelands. They played a little bit of defense, too.
Well, too deep, too much. Offense, defense, running, passing. The Whippets were way too much in this game. The game wasn't even as close as that score indicates. There were some scores given up late, which doesn't matter. But, man, the Whippets are on point right now heading into that regional semi.
The game of the weekend belonged to Liberty Center and Colonel Crawford. That's Chase Walker blocking out the sun right there. That would lead to a score. It was a 7-7 game in the third when the Eagles QB Barack wrist cop ripping and running. He's going to go 60 yards on a dash that takes him all the way into the zone. A wild chain of events would later unfold after this, leading to Evan Conrad making the game-tying catch with just over a minute to play. And then we're going to go to an extra session where the Eagles would walk it off. Tristan Cross's third TD of the game. Crawford remains undefeated at 8-0.
You have a quarterback like Ritzhopt and a running back like that. I mean, those are 2 pretty big guns right there, and you probably want them to touch the ball on just about every play.
All right, gentlemen, a few other scores of note, teams that we did not have moving pictures for. How about Loudonville? Put up a really good fight. I think they were the 16th seed, went on the road at Cole Grove. They would lose 35-28. Top-seeded Bellevue wrecked Kenton 56-15 in D4 Region 14. The Redmen are going to play Van Wert, who edged Keystone 38-27. In D3 Region 10, top-seeded Tiffin Columbian beat Revere 28-21, setting up a matchup with 12-seeded West Holmes. I think we all predicted that the Knights were going to upset Padua Franciscan. They did that, 29-22. Cary lost a tough one at number 1 seed Archbald 35-28. And how about a regular season stunner? I can't even believe it. I'm about to say the score, but Mansfield Senior loses to Madison, the Rams, in their 25-game losing streak, 13-7. Quick thoughts on that one, guys.
Congratulations to Dave Stupka. I mean, those guys have been through some tough times here recently, and good for them.
Yeah, that might be the biggest shocker of the weekend, actually, and it's a non-playoff game. That one just really surprised me. As a matter of fact, I kind of woke up to a text, and I'm kind of looking at it. My wife even said, like, what? She's like, man, she thought I got, like, bad news. She thought, like, somebody had just told, and I'm like, no, I can't believe, so I had to get up and actually check for myself. I thought somebody was punking me. But like you said, I couldn't be happier for Madison, for Coach Stupka. What a way to end the year. I think their season's done, and if you're Mansfield, you have an opportunity this week to play Norwalk and get that taste out of your mouth. But, when you think about Bellevue, man, how good are they?
Right.
Worthy of that 1 seed. Tiffin and West Holmes, man, once again, there's so many games this week that it would be awesome to be at that game, thinking about that West Holmes matchup. But I think we can all agree that West Holmes is just extremely underseeded. They probably should have been a top 3 or 4 seed.
Right.
And so I think that's more of an indictment on the seeding process. Colonel Crawford continuing survive, advance. We'll see if they can continue their journey. They got another tough opponent coming up, but I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that you said. What were a couple of the other games that you had on there?
Well, we're going to dive into the brackets in
just
a minute, Erik.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm excited, man.
I can see that, and that's good.
This is great because, like Curt said, this is like the NC2A playoff. I love it. It's great.
Yep.
There is a cool component to it this year, the fact that everybody got in. Like, you do like seeing the double-digit seeds. Clyde, for example, is the number 11. Obviously, they're not a number 11 seed, but they would have never gotten to the playoffs this year if it weren't for the new format. So the fact that everybody got their shot, this is pretty neat. Given that everybody had a chance, who was still playing this weekend that impressed you the most, Curt? Who are you like, man, this team's pretty good, and they're showing it right now?
I'm an Ashland County guy, and I good for Loudonville. You know what? They play in the Principals Athletic Conference with Orville and some very good teams. Cuyahoga Valley Christian Academy's in there, Canal Fulton Northwest. Those are some 2 divisions higher. And they, Loudonville got roughed up a little bit during their regular season portion of the schedule because they're playing those big schools. But when they got into the Division 6 playoffs and they were in a bracket that went through Southeast Ohio, and man, they showed out, and there's a lot to be looking forward to if you're down in Redbird country.
Anyone stick out to you, Erik?
I just like the small schools, man. I love the Danville. I like East Knox. I love the fact that Lucas is still playing right now and playing at a really high level. And once again, we have another unbelievable matchup there coming up this weekend. But I'm just really impressed with West Holmes. I think that might be the biggest surprise team of the year for me because there wasn't really any talk. I think you had actually told me even before the season started that over in Wayne County there was conversation that West Holmes is going to be pretty good, and I'll be honest with you, they're better than pretty good. Right. So for them to be in the Division III state regional semifinals is really a testament to those kids and what they've done in the offseason, and to still be representing that conference along with Ashland is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think, and we mentioned that they were underseeded largely because I think they had 2 losses in the regular season. They lost to Worcester in a game that wasn't especially competitive, and then I think they went to a very good New Philadelphia, and I think those were their 2 losses.
And then the Ashland game didn't count towards their seeding.
The Ashland game came after the seeding, so I mean they were 3-2 probably going into that seeding meeting, and 3-2 is unremarkable. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, especially in a Division III region. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely they're underseeded.
Yeah, I think that given what you just said, they were probably properly seeded at 3-2, but we all knew that they had the horses to make it happen. That was the 2 teams I wrote down, was West Holmes and Lucas. I did a lot of research on the Independence team that came in, hadn't allowed more than 20 all year. Lucas went just a shade above that. And then when they got off the bus, Erik, you always talk about it, like they got some dudes. They had a few kids walking off. They have some good-looking athletes, so 6'4", 6'5" on the perimeter. They did nothing Lucas's guys shut them down defensively. Really, really impressed with the Cubs this weekend.
And remember this. They've played 3 Division VII opponents, and they've given up 7 points in those 3 games. So.
Amazing.
Right, and the MOAC has prepared them for
Absolutely.
this. You're talking about Galleon and Clear Fork and Ontario and Shelby. I really do think that was a beneficial thing for Lucas making this run.
And I think Scott Spittler would tell you the exact same thing. In fact, he probably told us that very thing a couple different times this season.
Maybe we kind of already touched on this with West Holmes, but is there a most surprising team to you, Curt, that is, I guess, still playing?
And only because I don't see him a lot, but I'm thrilled to death for Ryan Teglovic over at Colonel Crawford. You know, I haven't seen them all year. I knew that they were supposed to be pretty good coming in. To be where they are, though, I mean, I would imagine they're, turning somersaults over there in North Robinson.
Well, I'm going to agree with that. And there's no doubt you have to throw a lot of love to Colonel Crawford. Right. Going just a touch outside of it, but a team that you've been covering here lately is Clyde. I mean, they graduated a lot off a state championship team.
Sure.
And yeah, they've got some dudes, but when you look at their roster, I've got their roster sitting on my desk at school. It's a lot of juniors and a lot of sophomores.
Right.
They're really good this year. There's no doubt. I haven't seen anybody else. It's either got to be them or Tiffin winning the SBC next year, at least pick to win the SBC next year. And oh, by the way, Bellevue isn't going anywhere either. That league is stupid, man.
Right.
It is really good. I think it's the best football conference, that SBC Lake, as far as size of school and the dynamite that you get out of there. I mean, imagine when your struggling teams are Sandusky and then Perkins.
Right.
Those are your teams that struggle. Like you said, Clyde wouldn't have even made the playoffs this year.
No
and
way.
Here they go again. And I'll tell you what, I'm expecting nothing but an old school street fight
Right.
down at Skiles on Saturday night.
If you win a state championship as an 8 seed like they did last year,
Right.
you go in as a 12 or 13. There's no reason to think,
Right.
hey, we've done it before. Why can't we do it again?
Yeah, the belief in that locker room and with that coaching staff's
Right.
through the roof.
And for me, another number 2 seed, but Ashland. I just didn't know what they were going to be coming into this year with Sean
Right.
Cedar in his second season. I think they started last year like 0-4 or something. They got better down the stretch, but I wasn't sure what to expect from the Arrows. And then they get housed. 35 straight points they give up against West Holmes. That was the last taste in their mouth before they got into postseason. Had the bye. We're waiting around. Ethan Hartley's a little bit banged up. So for them to still be playing, and I know that Norwalk had a couple of unfortunate breaks not go their way, but to hold them to 7 points and get a win and moving on, I've been pretty impressed with the Arrows. I'm a big fan of them.
Well, and I got to back this up real quick. You're 100% right, Brian, because Ashland coming from the OCC is beating one of the better SBC Lake Division teams, because Norwalk's legit too. They're a perennial playoff team and a conference championship caliber team with one of the better quarterbacks you're going to see. And for Ashland to do that, you're right. And Coach Cedar and that group coming off kind of I would say a very subpar, probably not an Ashland expectation year in 2019. They've rebounded and had a great year, and they need to be commended for that.
And you can attest to this. Any coach will tell you have to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. And that Ashland defense and special teams were very opportunistic the other night. They returned a fumble, the scoop and score for about 60 yards.
Yeah.
They recover a pooch kick on the opening kickoff. They sit through that 90-minute range. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. They shouldn't have started that game because it was lightning all around Ashland.
Yeah.
We all saw the tweets. It's okay.
And they got about
there.
what I think 3 minutes into the game before they shut it down for 90 minutes. But good for Ashland. I mean, they're survive and advance, and here we are.
Is there any team out there that has shocked you guys, that has bowed out before this point, that's not playing, that you really thought might make a push towards a regional championship?
I don't know that I thought they'd make a push towards a regional championship. I thought this was the year that Worcester would win a playoff game, and they got beat by a very good team in the opening round, and it was a shootout, I think, and Worcester buried themselves in a hole and got back into that game, just kind of ran out of time. But I really thought that doing what they did during the regular season, I thought that this was the year that they were going to kind of break through. It just goes to show you they're the Division II team in the OCC. Everyone else is, with the exception of Mount Vernon, is D3. And that's a different world, D2.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a great. I think they've lost Olatanja Berlin,
Right.
which was a kind of an up and coming school. I think it's in its second or third year of existence. For me, it's looking down to. I'm going to go for another surprise of a team that did far exceeded what I thought, which would be Ontario. And then the opposite of that would probably be Clear Fork. I actually thought Clear Fork would be a little bit better through the regular season. They're competitive, but I thought they would get on the plus side of the scoreboard more on the wins and losses. Because there's talent down in the valley. I'm telling you, like and they'll be back next year. Coach Carroll's a really good football coach. They'll be back. Those kids are going to hit the offseason. He's going to be able to use this and play this season up. But I think they had some uncharacteristic losses this year that they don't normally have. They lost some of those 50-50 games, even early to Lucas.
Right.
You know, I mean, which kind of started this season where there weren't too many games they weren't competitive in, but I thought that they would get on the plus side of that scoreboard a little bit more as far as the wins and losses.
And how about Ontario entered this year with a 40-4 record against Clear Fork. They only won 4 times in 44 matchups. Warriors get them twice this season. I thought that was pretty cool. And I was breaking down the brackets. There have been very few upsets. And
It's
in
been
terms
chalk.
of the top 2 or 3 seeds, like East Knox is one of the few teams that actually has been knocked out. That was one of the higher seeds. So it's been chalk, at least in terms of like the top 4. So the good teams have been advancing, like maybe we expected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to go back and touch on Ontario for a minute. There's they could potentially win 7 games. I think they play Lexington this week, and if they win that game, they haven't won 7 games out there for a while. So Chris is doing a great job.
Absolutely, I'm a big Coach Miller fan. I think he's fantastic. I think he's the right fit there. And if you're going to cover a non-conference or a non-playoff game this week, that's a good one to do. That Lexington-Ontario game is always fun every year. Normally week 1, they're saving it for week 10. Should be fun.
All right, guys, we're going to dive into the brackets and look at this upcoming weekend's games here in a minute. But first, I want to travel back in time all the way to last week where we threw in 5 plays. 5 of the best plays that were captured by our cameras. We let you, the people, decide. I think this is the most votes that we've had all season. And at the end of the day, we tallied them up. And this is who your winner is. And no surprise, it's going to be Shane Knepp with the tip drill pick. And he's going to take it back down the sideline. Huge play there by Milik to tip it up, and then Knepp with the one-handed snag. Congratulations, sir. You are our Week 8 top play winner. We're going to have shirts delivered all across the state in about 2 weeks. Can't wait to see all your beautiful smiling faces. We're going to go ahead and take a timeout. When we come back, you'll meet the nominees for this week's top 5 plays. Stay with us. All right, as promised, we have 5 nominees for this week's top play of the week. Let's go ahead and meet them right now. Let's make some history with our first nominee. Shelby running back Owen Fisher running his way 62 yards right into the Whippets record books, breaking Shorty Brooks' career all-time rushing mark with the score, officially becoming a Shelby legend. And he showcased it all, Erik. Check this out, the quick burst, strength, agility, and speed. Welcome to the Mount Rushmore, my friends.
Well, not only that, but he's doing it on a fresh pair of legs. First time he's had that really all year. But yeah, how cool is it that this young man had an opportunity to break this 126 years of rushing record?
And when you speak of Crawford football lore, you better remember the name Lore. Caleb Lore, who taketh the ball and set up a game-winning score. Check out this nominee, a little bit slower speed, Lore, jumping the route like a paper boy, and he makes the delivery at play number 2. On to play 3 we go, and it's the little engine that could, pulling that pigskin cargo right through the valley, and no one gonna catch him, not even a Colt. It's half man, half water bug, but all Owen Hatfield. 67 yards on the end around. Speed so good, not even slow-mo can keep him out of the end zone. Now that's fast, boys.
Yeah, Hattie. I mean, you gotta love this guy. He's a tough little guy, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
So Owen Hatfield at play number 3. Nominee number 4 is going to be Jaden Cook. He's going to sneak his way out the back door, and everybody sees him, but nobody can do anything about it. Not you. Not you. Nice try. And then he's going to backslide his way into the end zone where he is safe at the plate for the score. I mean, how many Tigers does it take to successfully take down one fighter plane? Apparently none, because they all can't catch him, and Clyde would go on to win. The defending state champ still rolling.
Hey, man, and not only that, that dude, Jaden Cook, you're going to be seeing him play it down at Skiles. I think he was not the original starting quarterback this year, and he's done a great job of leading that team down the stretch.
Our final nominee looks like a traffic cop directing the QB into a bad decision, but it's all good for Andrew Finello, spinning like a swing dancer who wants a new partner but can't find a nice way to do it, so he just picks him off, takes it into the end zone, and the Cubs are taking their way into the regional semis.
Hitting the B button there.
Love it, man. So make sure that you're going to weigh in on the Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'll repost these, and you guys can all vote. All right. Last week as well, we had 7 players, the most that we've ever had, nominated for a Friday Night Phenom. We shook them all up, threw them out to you guys, and let you vote. And again, this was a record vote this week, so thank you for all of you out there who voted. But this was your winner at the end of the count. Howard, Ohio, we see you out there. Every time we put one of your players up here for a top 5 play or a phenom, they always seem to come out on top. This week's winner is Cole DeLauder, the EK freshman running back who trucked his way for over 100 yards in a score in a win over Toronto. So congratulations to you, sir. Another clean sweep for East Knox. It's almost not fair when we put them on the vote. They win pretty much every single time. But hey, if you're a fan base out there and you want your kids to get those t-shirts and the recognition, you gotta weigh in. Get on there. All right, let's now meet this week's nominees for Friday Night Phenoms, presented by Spherion Mid-Ohio. Our first nominee, no doubt about this kid right here, Owen Fisher, a record-setting performance for him, becoming a part of Shelby lore, and he had a huge day in getting that career rushing mark, 280 and 4 touchdowns, man.
Dude, he's averaging well over 10 yards a carry for the season. Ooh. And has well over 20 touchdowns. So he's just been absolutely spectacular all year. There's no doubt he's going to be a first-team All-Ohio. I think he could even be a district player of the year and all those things. So phenomenal year, phenomenal career, and it's still moving forward. We'll see him again this week, too.
And super unassuming. You're not going to meet a more humble kid.
Oh, yeah, he's great. I mean, the first thing he's going to do is talk about his offensive line. So, which is the way this should be. Any great running back knows you're not getting anywhere without those 5 big uglies up front.
Yeah, he's got a great offensive line, and this was the run that actually propelled him into the Shelby history books. Owen Fisher, your nominee and a record setter. How about the night by this dude, too? Tristan Cross, 23 carries, went over 2 bills, 3 touchdowns, but what I really liked was he had the walk-off game-winning touchdown in overtime, man, and he was so emotional. He was grabbing his boys, he was crying, like, big performance, and you could tell that he really cares.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been doing it all year for the Eagles, too. I think he led the N10 in rushing. This is as deep as Colonel Crawford has been in the playoffs, and it's number 5 is a big reason why.
Listen, when you expend that much energy playing in a hard-fought quarterfinal game, when you are the higher seed, you have advancing on the mind, all of those things, he personally put that on his shoulders and went out and got behind his offensive line and had a whale of a night. And what you're seeing when those tears are coming out is just raw emotion because there's nothing left in the tank. That dude literally left it all on the field, and that's what you're seeing at the end of the game.
And if I'm not mistaken, he pulls his load on the defensive side of the ball, too.
Right.
I think he's a real good linebacker, too. So, I mean, it's not getting many plays off, and, that's a lot for anyone.
Yeah, he's a two-way player, and there he is right there, man, fired up after a big victory. Owen HATFIELD, man, we've been talking about the water bug a lot today, but hey, he had a big performance. He had just 2 catches in this game for about 10 yards, but then the 2 big carries for over 100, both times that they gave it to him on an end around, he went for touchdowns. And I just love how elusive he is. He's way faster, I think, in person than a lot of people think that he's going to be. He just burns you.
Well, and he always beats the angle, too. And I feel like he's been doing this forever. This is like 3 years of watching him making plays just like this. And he runs extremely hard for his size. He's got great vision. When Ontario was struggling to get their program moving, he was a constant offensive weapon for them. So not only about this week, but just his entire career, a very impressive young man.
He's key in the return game for them as well. Takes the kicks, the punts. I think he had like 45 return yards in this win over Clear Fork as well. Our final nominee this week, Jaden Cook, and man, you got to give a shout out to this kid. I believe his mom was hitting us up on the Facebook and letting us know he has really had to battle through injuries coming back from a knee. Didn't think he was going to be able to play. Got into the lineup for the first time last week, I believe. Got the start, and he had a rough fourth quarter. 3 straight passes went for interceptions, and then he bounced back and had the game-winning dime when it mattered most. So the guts that he possessed right here to throw this dart for the win after what had just happened to him, I thought that he was worthy this week.
Well, not only that, you're playing an unbelievably quality opponent in Huron, who at that point in time, I believe, was 7-0 going into that game and won the Bay Division. So, and you're talking about a guy who supposedly has a knee issue outrunning the entire secondary of Huron. So, obviously, I believe he's second on the team in rushing. He's obviously their passing leader. He's an all-purpose cat.
So those are your nominees for this week's Friday Night Phenoms. We'll put it up as its own post. Let you guys weigh in and let us know who you think is worthy of being number 1. All right, we got to get to the portion of the show. Eric's been salivating over here all night. He cannot wait to see these brackets. So let's dive in. We'll start with the big picture. Go ahead and bring up all 4 of the regions that we are about to break down. And we're going to begin with the big boys out there. Division 3, Region 10. A lot of good teams still remain. And you see that number 12 next to West Holmes. We already talked about it in the show. We felt like talent-wise they were much better than that, probably seeded correctly. But they've showed a few teams along the way that they're a team and a force to be reckoned with. And how about Ashland down at the bottom, still alive too?
I'll go ahead and start. Let's start with the Columbian West Holmes. I'm picking West Holmes. I like them. I think they're playing hot football. Listen, they've caught lightning in a bottle ever since the Ashland game. Right. They have caught lightning in a bottle. I think they're fantastic. I love the way they're coached. I like the way their kids are playing with just a chip on their shoulder. So I guess you would have to call this one. This is obviously a big upset, a 12-1. I love Columbian too. Don't get me wrong. And obviously we come in here next week. I'll eat my crow. Sure. I'll do that. But I like West Holmes in this. And then Ashland, my heart's with you. I'm rooting for you, Ashland. But I'm picking Holy Name in this game. There's a lot of athletes on that team. I've seen what they've done last year to Mansfield Seniors defense. I've seen what they've done. I mean, they've obliterated a lot of opponents this year. I like, so my heart's with Ashland, but my head's going to go ahead and pick Holy Name.
Yeah, I would imagine the Columbian coaching staff is telling their kids, let's not look at that number before West Holmes. they're not a 12 seed. I mean, they were seeded 12th, yeah. They're not playing like a 12 seed. They are, hanging it on some quality opponents there. Parma Padua last week, Cloverleaf the week before. There's some good wins there. I'm with you there with Ashland. I hope I'm wrong, but Holy Name, I was really impressed. Of all the teams that Mansfield Senior beat on the way to their state runner-up finish last year, that's the team that scored the most points on them. And that includes, Trotwood Madison managed 14 in overtime in a state championship game. I think Holy Name scored 30 on senior high last year. And granted, that this is a different team. There's
Sure.
different pieces, but if last year's any indication, Ashland's going to have their hands full.
And who probably likes that pick the most is Sean Cedar. He's probably in the ear of his guys. You see that,
Well,
boys?
yeah.
They don't believe in us. They don't think we can get past Holy Name. There's no way we can get into this regional championship game. Mark my words, boys. We're going to get to see the rematch. West Holmes versus Ashland and at Community Stadium. That's going to be a fun one. Circle it on your calendars right now.
I love it.
Yeah,
I'd
absolutely.
love it.
I think Ashland
Yeah.
wouldn't object to that one bit.
Right.
All right, let's go ahead and move on now. Division 4, Region 14, where,
Man.
oh man, this is fun. Bellevue up top. We've seen what they've been doing. They dropped 50 plus on Kenton this last week and held the best throwing offense in the state to 14 points, if I'm not mistaken. Shelby on the other side, they've been dominant. Struggled a little bit at the beginning against Rossford, but they really put it on Firelands. And then Clyde, baby, you can't count them out. I mean, they got that championship pedigree. There's a lot of kids on that roster that got one of the rings on their finger, so that's going to be a couple of fun matchups.
Yeah, Rob Mahaney's absolutely telling his guy to not pay attention to that number in front of Clyde there. They are they're an 11 seed, sure, but the defending state champ is an 8 seed. Why not? Let's go out and shock the world again, right? And there's no reason they can't do it. Shelby is playing really well. We said it, that, as one-sided as that score was last week, it was not indicative of what happened on the football field. Fireland scored a lot of points there against Shelby's, second team and JV kids. And, it was a running clock for a majority of that second half, and it absolutely was a running clock for a majority of that second half.
Yeah, I'm picking Shelby over Clyde. I feel good about Shelby. I'm not saying that because of the background. I'm saying that because I've seen it on the field. I've seen the product. Here's what I like about them. They can run and throw the football. I feel like the offensive line's gelling. Their defense really has only struggled on the first drive of the games. Once they figure out, once you get past the scout stuff, what would be, going against your JVs, you actually see the speed of the game. I feel like they adjust well. I like their defense. I love that. Their defensive line is nasty. I feel like their backers are playing well. I feel like the secondary has developed enough. Now, having said that, Clyde's a sledgehammer, man. And if you don't match the physicality, you're in trouble. And here's the last thing I'll say about that game, then we'll go to the Bellevue Van Wert. But you got to be careful getting caught up in these rematch things, because there's a fire in there. And I said this on the radio last week. The fire's good. It can either heat your home or it can burn the house down. So we want to heat the home. You don't want to burn the house down. Use the fire for good, but don't get out of control and allow your emotions to get in the way of the things that you've done to be successful. So I am picking Shelby. And I'm telling you what, this Van Wert-Bellevue game is going to be closer than people think. I am picking Bellevue. I'm not going out on a limb and picking Van Wert. But it would not surprise me if we were sitting here in a week and Van Wert had found a way to win that game. That is a tough league, man. And but I like Bellevue, man. Bellevue's nasty. They got 700 Rays, and their defense is nasty. And I think they've got probably the best coach left in the tournament.
That's probably fair.
And you're looking at that. I mean, we're potentially looking at a 1v2 for a regional title, and that's exactly how it should be. I mean, of all the regions, I think this one is playing out, as closely as a lot of people thought it would.
And who doesn't want to see Bellevue versus Shelby? I mean, they've played 100 times. They were off of each other's schedule the last couple of years. Let's run it back, baby. Let's make it happen one more time. And the rematch, Clyde versus Shelby, I covered that game last year. What a good game that was. McGuire Albert was perfect in the first half. Shelby looked like they were going to run their way into a regional championship. And then all of a sudden, he threw a couple of picks. Clyde started getting the running game going. And then they wiped him off the field in that second half. So I think that fire probably burning a little bit. Just hopefully it doesn't burn down that Whippet house, man. That's what we're banking on. All right, let's check out Division 6, Region 22 now, where we still got Colonel Crawford, that number 2 seed. They have been looking sharp. The top dog still available up top to Archibald. Matter of fact, it's been chalk up to this point. The top 4 seeds all still available. And what I think is so much fun, fellas, nobody has lost that is still remaining. All undefeated, all 8-0s. Something's got to give this weekend.
Yeah, that Sherwood Fairview team is traditionally a real strong team in that region. They knocked out some pretty good Hillsdale teams a couple years ago. Colonel Crawford, I know Ryan Teglevic real well. I used to play baseball with him. I'm so happy for him, and good for those guys. They have been doing it for a long time over there, Teg has, and he deserves this.
Yeah, there's a part of I got burnt last week because I picked Tenora. Okay, so I'm not going to do it this week. I am picking Archibald, even though I did like carrying that Archibald game, and we weren't too far. I think you did too. But I am taking Archibald, and I like Colonel Crawford because I feel like that they've got some of that, almost like that Clyde from last year. There's a little bit of grit with that group. There's a little bit of that. There's something to be said for, I think you were talking about Fairview, is a team that traditionally is pretty darn good, great conference. But there's something to be said about just a bunch of young guys and a bunch of guys experiencing something new that they don't want this to end. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Colonel Crawford. I know that's probably a little bit of a bailout because that's the local team, but I actually do feel pretty good with that pick.
I mean, I hate using the word destiny, but it almost seems to me like Colonel Crawford's just like kind of on that course right now where they got all the horses, man. They got all the moving parts and pieces, and if they can just put it together, I feel like they can win in every matchup that they get. I really want to see them in a regional championship game, but they're going to be up against it. That's going to be a fun one. We'll have highlights for that game for you guys next week. Last but not least, let's check out Division 7, Region 25, where the defending, reigning kings are still available, that being the second-seeded Lucas Cubs, and they've got another one of those fun rematches, and that was probably arguably Lucas's toughest test last year in the playoffs outside of the championship game in the state final was against McDonald, where it came down to a 2-point conversion. They had the guts to go for it, McDonald did, but they didn't get it. The Cubs advanced, and then up top, JFK, and then Dalton. I know you love your Wayne County Athletic League, Curt.
Yeah, that's if I'm going to call a shot, that's the one. JFK had their hands full last week with a very good St. Paul team. The Wayne County League is just a physical, tough league, and they'll grind it at you just as long as they can. They did that against Plymouth a couple weeks ago. It was a 21-0 game, and it felt maybe a little bit more than 21-0. It would have been that's a hard ask. And they did it last week too against Malvern. So I mean, I feel good about the Dalton Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm picking Dalton, too. I like them. Wouldn't surprise me if JFK wins, obviously. I have a lot of respect for St. Paul's one of those pedigrees as well that just come tournament time, they're a tough out. But I'm with you. I'm going with Dalton as well. This McDonald-Lucas game, I really believe this is a true, once again, 50-50 game. But there's no way Brian and I can go to the treehouse this week, with me picking against them. And I wouldn't anyways. I'm picking the Cubbies at home. I think when you go to the Cub Den there, you better be 2-3 touchdowns better that night. So I'm picking the Cubbies and I'm picking Dalton, which will be awesome. Kind of two local, for us, local teams playing each other, and that would be in Lucas as well. So we get to stay in the treehouse for another week. We appreciate Taylor Eisman and that crew just taking care of us. So I do, man. I like Lucas. I really believe that schedule has prepped them for this run. And, man, they just keep putting bullets in the chamber, man. I like the kids, and I like what they do.
Yeah, there's no question where I'm going with this pick, Erik. Lucas Cubs all the way. Me and Mechanics Bank, we've been with them every stride all the way. And getting to see them in person the last couple of weeks, they got some big hosses up front that really, they control the line of scrimmage. And I just love how much they mix it up, dude. They have a lot of skill kids. I don't think a lot of folks know. They're used to them having like the couple of bell cow backs. Nah, they got some real speed out there. And Lucas mixed in with the tough kids. So I'm pulling for the Cubs, and I wanted to give one last shout-out. Unfortunate accident yesterday for one of their own, Riley Gossam. Prayers going out to that boy right now. You're on everybody's heart and on their mind, so prayers out to you and your family, and your Cubs going to go out and get it done for you. All right, guys, that's going to do it for tonight's show. Thank you, as always, to my two guests, Erik Will, along with Curt Conrad. They crush it. They always got the Erikisms now as a new part of the show. I love how that's getting into the mix. So just one more of these left, guys. You can catch us on the Pigskin next week, and we're going to have the All OH Report team for you for the first time ever. We even got a cool trophy for whoever our pick is for the Player of the Year. So make sure that you check us out next week. But for right now, we out. Check us out on live streams. We got soccer and football all week. Bye for now.